I had a conversation with one of my clients just a couple of nights ago, and she brought up a really good point that led me to feel as though this needed to be one of the videos here on my YouTube channel. And here's how the conversation went. She was sharing with me how frustrating it was to hear people in our Facebook group say things like, my old marriage is over and I'm now in the middle of creating a new marriage, or I'm on my second marriage. And the way she interpreted all of that, because she keeps hearing also she has to grieve her old marriage and things, and she became frustrated, and she was explaining to me that, I've had 30 years of marriage and I don't regret a second of it. There were some really great memories. I don't want to get rid of that. I don't want to let that go. And I don't know why I should have to. And we had a really good conversation after she expressed that, but I had not thought of it that way before she said something. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to take that concept of grieving the marriage we used to have, and we're going to see what that really means, what's expected of us to grieve something like that. So stay tuned. All right, so grieving what you've lost. Okay, let's just talk about what grief is for just a minute. We grieve what we lose. It's a loss. We grieve all kinds of things, actually, and we grieve them on different levels. I mean, obviously, if a dear loved one passes away, we have a great deal of grief to endure after that. Even if a pet passes away, we feel grief. But maybe we grieve, we end up moving. We have to move. And we have this beloved neighborhood that we've lived in for X number of years. Our kids grew up here, but one of us gets a job somewhere else and we need to move. We grieve the loss of that. And here, we're not grieving. Grieving doesn't mean letting go of or forgetting about or, burying something. Grieving it is just basically the losses associated with whatever's happened. In the case of someone dying, that means that we grieve the loss of what we can't do with that person anymore. We can't pick up the phone and call them. We can't get their incredible advice. We won't be able to hug them or touch them. So we're grieving aspects of this shift that has taken place. This person is no longer with us. Now, we don't forget about this person, and we don't, burn all of their photos, or we don't, pretend like they never existed. We just grieve those things that we've lost due to the death. If we were to move, well, let's see. We have great friends in our neighborhood right down the cul-de-sac. And so we're going to grieve the loss of being able to just walk across the street and hang out with them. We're going to grieve for our children because they probably had really great friends here. We're going to grieve the loss of the comfort level we had, because if you've lived somewhere a long time, you know it like the back of your hand. You know where the store is, you know all the shortcuts and all the back roads, and now you got to relearn all that. So you grieve that. There are things you grieve. And if you loved your house, let's say you put a ton of effort into decorating it, you're going to grieve that too. So on different levels, we grieve a lot of things, right? So when it comes to grieving, when after the affair, we're not grieving a marriage. We're grieving the aspects of the marriage that are now different, aspects of the relationship that have changed, or things we've lost because of the affair. Just let's think it through, right? We've lost security. We don't feel safe in this relationship anymore, so we've lost the secure feeling we had prior to the affair. We've lost trust, which goes along with that. We used to trust and believe him. Now we can't, and we don't know how to. We've lost that comfort. It was easy. You get up in the morning, you kiss each other goodbye, you go to work, you come home, you hang out. It was just easy. We didn't have to really work at it anymore. We were comfortable around each other. Or, maybe we're grieving, what's happening to our children if our kids know about it. or we've separated and we've reconciled, like that was in my case, our kids knew. I grieved that. That relationship was tense now. It wasn't the same. Again, it goes back to that easiness. It was awkward sitting at family dinners. It was challenging to do these things. We grieve what we've lost in ourselves. We're not as confident as we used to be. Our self-esteem has plummeted. We really felt good about who we were and the decisions we'd make. And now suddenly we don't have that comfort level any longer with even ourselves. There's a lot of little things that we've lost after we find out about the affair. That is what we grieve. We grieve those losses. Now, that doesn't mean you can't get it back. It just means that what you had, those things are now lost to you. And you have to rebuild them. But before you can rebuild them, you have to understand that the grief process is helping you come to terms. The last stage of grief is acceptance. And what that means is that you get to a place where you accept it happened. I can't change it. He can't change it. I'm just now ready to move on. Well, that's what your grief process is helping you get to. So it's a very healthy process. And in that process, you're accepting those things that you lost as being lost for now. And you look to regain them. Okay? Grief does not mean that you are taking an entire marriage before the affair and throwing it in the garbage and never looking at it again. Grieving what you've lost does not mean that you look back on that and have hatred for what it was. Yes, I do understand that, especially those of us who've had multiple D-days, or you realize your husband had multiple affairs, for instance, that you may look back on an entire marriage and think, was anything real? Was anything true? I understand that, but I'm talking here about the basic grief, okay? The marriage happened. However many years you were married when you found out about the affair, it happened, okay? It you can't change it. He can't change it. It is what it is. It's just part of your story now. But those pieces that have been lost in the process, you grieve it so that you can move forward. Now, does that mean that, photos from a vacation you guys took that, you found out he was talking to her the whole time and you just want to get rid of all those pictures? Sure, get rid of the pictures. That's not what I'm talking about. I think there's an idea out there, and based on how my client interpreted what she was reading, I want to make sure that idea is not, where you are listening to this right now. Our marriage was not completely awful. Just because an affair happened does not make the entire marriage a lie. When he was at the altar with us, standing there, he didn't do that just because it was just some fun thing to do. He really wanted to marry us, right? He really wanted to be our husband. He wanted to commit his life to being with us. And then down the road, he made a choice that devastated us both. It devastated our marriage. We had a loss. So don't completely discount that. I want to give you an analogy. I just talked a minute about moving. Let's take that because that's pretty benign and it's non-triggering, hopefully. So let's say you've lived in the same house for 10 years. And in that time frame, you've had children. Your kids have grown up with the neighbor kids. You have 3 really awesome girlfriends, and they're right here in the cul-de-sac. You guys always have cul-de-sac parties. When Halloween rolls around, you guys make plans to sit at the end of the driveway while everybody trick-or-treats. You drink wine together. You just love where you live, right? Well, then you need to move. And you're sad about that. And so you pick up and you pack up your house and you move to this new location. So what are you going to grieve in this transition? You're going to grieve the loss of these really good 3 friends that you can just walk across the street and see. You can still have friendship with them. It's just going to be long distance now, so it's going to have to change. This new house isn't your old house. So trying to fit your furniture into this new house is going to look completely different. It's going to be a challenge. You're going to have to figure out, well, where am I going to put this and where am I going to put that? So in a way, you're kind of grieving the ease of your old house, especially if you put a lot of effort into decorating it. You kind of have to start all over again. That's frustrating. So you kind of grieve that, man. Okay, I got to let that go. I have to feel that loss. You knew the neighborhood like the back of your hand. You knew where people lived. It felt safe to let your kids go outside. You've lost that safety. You don't know these people, you know? You don't know how safe you feel doing that. So yeah, your safety's been lost a little bit. So you're going to grieve a little bit of that. So there are all these little aspects of moving to a different home in a different place that you're having to grieve. Now, again, these are apples and oranges, and I understand that because the trauma was not part of this little story I'm telling, but the point is the same. See, when you moved, you didn't throw all your photos away from the old house that had the old house in it. You want to keep those memories. You didn't get rid of all your furniture. Now the furniture has to fit in this new house differently, but it's still your furniture. You're not going to throw all your furniture away. You're not going to pretend like that didn't exist. You're not going to look back on those years in that neighborhood and see them as completely horrible and evil because you've moved. No, you are going to look to make new memories. That's the same thing as what we're being called to do when we find out about the affair and we're choosing to stay in the marriage, is that we are reconciling that we have to grieve those aspects of what we lost in order to recreate something new and better with our husband now. We get the safety back over time. We get the trust back over time. The way we see our husband is going to blossom and get better over time. Things are going to come back, but they're not going to be exactly like they were before. That furniture is not going to fit in that house the same way. That neighborhood's going to feel a little different. But we have to grieve the things we're holding on to back here, the things we've lost that we are longing for in order to recreate something new. That's what it means to grieve the marriage you thought you had, to grieve the husband you thought you married. You're not getting rid of them as if they are dead and gone and you'll never have that again. It's that you're letting go of the things you've lost and saying, okay, I lost this. I'm super sad. I don't have this anymore. I know I can get it back, but I got to grieve what I've lost before I can do that. That is how all of the grief processes work. No matter what you're grieving, no matter what level of grief you're in, you change jobs, you lose a pet, you lose a loved one, you find out about the affair, whatever it is, that's the core concept. This is ingrained actually in our DNA. It's in our brain. And it's there to protect us when we're grieving. If we felt every emotion at one time, we would just be a puddle on the floor. Our brain can't handle it. We would have a psychotic split. So the grief is a way to take pieces and one at a time just kind of, okay, wow, I've lost my safety. I don't really know what to do with this. I feel very lost right now, and I need to grieve this. I need to feel the pain of this loss. I need to understand the anger I feel because of this loss. I need to move through the steps. That's what we're doing. I hope that's helpful to you as you're working through how to get past, this grief, how to get through the grief process and not understand it as, a forgetting about or ignoring or burning family photos or refusing to look at vacation. I really hope we all get to a place, I'm there, where I can look at photos from a vacation where I know he was still communicating with her and let go of that. I've grieved it and glom on to the beauty of that trip and how amazing it was and how I'm so glad we had that opportunity to do it together and look forward to maybe going back sometime and making new memories. I got there. It's possible, but I had to grieve it first. Okay? Hope that helps as you're contemplating what you're supposed to be grieving right now. If this is helpful to you, I encourage you to check out the other videos I have here on my channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss anything along the way. Also, as a Master Certified Coach, I would love an opportunity to work with you. If you're interested in doing that, there is a video link below. You can just click on that and it will help you, guide you through, and you learn a bit more about what I do, and then we can set up a free consultation. But in the meantime, dear friends, just hang in there, okay? It does get better. The grief process does not last forever. We can get stuck sometimes, but it's a healthy process to go through. Just remember, it's not grief as in throwing it away or dismissing it or pretending that marriage did not exist. It's acknowledging the losses that come from finding out about the affair, okay? Keep that separate. Hold on to what you had, all right? You don't have to let it go, and you don't have to create something brand spanking new. You can just incorporate, like moving your furniture. You just move into a new situation and you make it better. That is the goal. All right, until next time, see ya.